Meet Javier Rivera, aka Javi. We used to be best friends growing up. See, we come from a place where dreams are cheap. Survival comes at a price. A place where the streets are quick to pull you in, and even quicker to spit you out. And there's no doubt, Javi's doing straight. He's got a lot of money, a lot of food on his plate. Everywhere he goes, he's got his crew right behind him. And if he wants, he takes it, he doesn't contemplate it. Doesn't take long before he starts to make mistakes. Running round town, putting guns in people's faces.
This is where it all began. One of the most notoriously dangerous caseríos, nestled away on the island of Puerto Rico. A place where dreams are cheap, but survival comes at a price. The streets buzzed with life, full of stories, dreams, and sadly dangerous temptations. This is where Javi and Richardo, two best friends, grew up. But like many of life's stories, their friendship, once stronger than steel, would eventually face the ultimate test. Javi and Richardo were inseparable, two boys with dreams far bigger than the projects they lived in. They'd stay out until sunset, playing ball, joking about what they'd do when they grew up. They were more than just friends, they were brothers. Time passed and high school came. The once inseparable friends began to drift apart, choosing different paths. Javi, tempted by the fast money and allure of the streets, found himself caught up in drug deals and dangerous company. Richardo, on the other hand, saw a future beyond the projects, working a part-time job at a local hardware store and studying hard in school, dreaming of becoming something more. Then there was Chris. He started coming around in high school. Chris was always plotting and scheming, the kind of guy who could smile in your face and stab you in the back when you weren't looking. And that's exactly what he did. As Javi and Chris started hanging out more often, Richardo started to distance himself. He kept himself busy, picking up extra shifts at the hardware store, determined to stay focused on his education. A few months later, he graduated high school with honors. Now, his sights were set on choosing the right university. Javi, on the other hand, captivated by the promise of fast cash, found himself entrenched in the streets, choosing a path of cash, drug deals, violent encounters, and high-stakes gambles. Javi quickly rose up the ranks and made a name for himself. He was considered ruthless, cutthroat, and calculated. People feared him. He was surrounded by his crew everywhere he went. But he was still alone. As time went on, Javi sunk deeper into the dangerous life he had so desired to escape as a child. And in no time, he had assembled a ruthless criminal empire. Richardo stayed the course and was busy grinding out his first semesters of college. At this point, they both had chosen to take two clearly different paths. But as life would have it, the two friends would cross roads again. One night, Javi ran into Richardo as he was leaving work. It had been a while since the two had seen each other. Javi insisted that Richardo come hang out with his longtime friend. Richardo didn't want to disappoint, and later the two met up at Javi's place. Of course, Chris was there, and Richardo couldn't help feeling something was off. He knew hanging with Javi was like a high-stakes game, where one slip is all it takes. But the streets don't forgive mistakes. Soon after Richardo left, everything Javi had worked toward came crashing down. Suddenly, masked men burst through the door, guns blazing. It was a setup. Someone had tipped them off. Javi, with instincts honed from the streets, fought back, bullets flying, bodies hitting the ground. He neutralized two of his attackers and barely made it out alive. But now the seed of doubt had been planted. Someone betrayed him. Javi's heart pounded in his chest as he fled the scene. Chris ran out and was close behind him. Javi stopped for a moment, his mind racing, replaying every detail. Someone had betrayed him. Someone close. And Chris was right there, playing his cards right, raising suspicion to Javi about Richardo distancing himself. Chris told Javi that Richardo had been seen with a rival crew just days ago, and pointed out that Richardo was there and had just left shortly before the setup. Javi didn't want to believe him, but suspicion began to grow like a poison in Javi's veins. Could it have been Richardo? Had his childhood friend sold him out? Javi became restless, constantly watching over his shoulder. He was unable to sleep, eat, or focus on anything but rooting out the ones who betrayed him and serving his vengeance. The paranoia had begun consuming Javi, blinding him to the truth. He had reached a breaking point. Chris's words echoed in his ears. Richardo was there and left just before the setup. Javi's bloodthirst for revenge had devoured any bit of mercy he had left. In Javi's eyes, time doesn't wait to pay for retribution. It's a debt he must collect. Now. Javi called Richardo to meet him at the courts, a place once filled with laughter and dreams of a better future. But this time, there were no jokes, no plans for tomorrow. Only a gun, a friendship hanging by a thread, and the weight of betrayal thick in the air. The same basketball courts where they had spent countless afternoons dreaming of a better life was now the setting for their confrontation. Javi pulls a gun from his waist and aims it at Richardo. Richardo looked into the eyes of his old friend, confused and hurt, pleading for Javi to see reason. But Javi's mind was clouded by doubt, anger, and rage. Richardo tried to get through to Javi, speaking to him of their shared childhood, of the bond they once had. His voice cracked with emotion as he begged Javi to put down the gun. But Javi wasn't sure who to trust anymore. He wanted to believe Richardo, but the streets had taught him that trust could be deadly. Just as Javi's finger tightened on the trigger, his phone rings aloud. The message that followed shattered everything Javi had been led to believe. Javi's sister spotted Chris with a man named Koki, the brother of one of the men Javi gunned down during the botched setup. The truth hit him like a freight train. Richardo hadn't betrayed him. Chris had played him all along. In that moment, the fog lifted. Javi had almost destroyed the only true friend he ever had, all because of Chris's manipulation. With a heavy heart and a mind still spinning from the revelation, Javi lowered the gun. Richardo was spared, but the betrayal still burned deep within Javi's soul. His next target was clear: Chris. And he knew right where to find him, hiding like the coward he was. To Javi, the betrayal ran too deep, and there was only one way to end it. Chris, always the manipulator, tried one last time to save himself, spinning lies and excuses, but Javi had heard enough. In the end, Chris's silver tongue couldn't save him. The streets demanded blood, and Javi was more than willing to deliver. One shot echoed through the alley. With it, Chris's life came to a violent end. But satisfaction was fleeting. Killing Chris didn't erase the betrayal or the pain. In fact, it only deepened Javi's spiral into darkness. The streets don't forgive, and now Javi had more enemies than ever. News of his betrayal and actions spread through the streets like wildfire. Soon after, the feds closed in on him. He was arrested and charged with murder, conspiracy, and money laundering. In no time, Javi was able to post a $500,000 bond and was back on the streets as he awaited trial. But revenge runs deep in these streets. Just days later, on a quiet night, as Javi walked the same streets that had once filled him with pride and power, Koki made his move. The same streets that had raised Javi would now claim his life. Javi's story ended like so many before him, with violence, blood, and betrayal. In the end, Javi couldn't outrun the consequences of his choices. The streets had consumed him, just as they had so many others before. The cycle of violence never ends. It only continues. While Javi's life ended in tragedy, Richardo's path led him to a different future. After their final confrontation, Richardo left the chaos behind. He moved to the States, where he finished earning his master's degree. His hard work, resilience, and integrity paid off. Now with his wife and 2 daughters, he is building a life far from the streets of his childhood. In the end, life is about choices. Javi chose the fast lane, but that road's full of dangerous curves. Richardo chose the slow grind, the path of hard work and patience. Life's lessons don't come easy, but for those who stay true to themselves, the rewards are far greater. We all have a Javi and a Richardo in us. The question is, which one will we choose to be?